Welcome to the Comedy Film Festival's Writing and Honorable Mentions virtual Q&A. I'm joined by the screenwriters and producers, directors, writers of films and shorts and pilots. I'd like to kind of get started by kind of diving into what your projects are and who you are, how you're related to your project. So if we could just, we'll go ahead and start with Mike, if you don't mind.
My name is Mike Boland, and I am the writer of Yo, Andrea, which is the winner of the feature screenplay award.
Jeff?
Jeff Baker. I was the runner-up to Michael, who I just met. And I met the Three Stooges, even though most of my work has been in documentary film. This was my second effort, so I was very pleased about it.
Let's go ahead and chat.
My name's Chad Wallin, and I directed and edited the Beaver Lake Productions Retrospective. It's basically just a retrospective of a YouTube channel that makes ridiculous videos. We got honorable mention. Didn't have a screenplay. It was a documentary. So
we'll go ahead and jump down to Elizabeth.
My name is Elizabeth Leff. I wrote and directed Nonprofit, which is a short film, but it's also a proof of concept for a TV series. And it's about a Jewish nonprofit organization doing advocacy work in Washington, D.C. amidst a chaotic political landscape.
I'm Sayjal Joshi. I am one of the co-producers and co-writers of a web series, a comedy web series called Funny. And it takes place in Chicago. I was also the lead in it. It's about a woman in the Chicago improv scene, navigating it as a woman and as a POC.
Hi, this is Zhelun, Jerry Lin. So I'm the writer and director of a short film, Not a Typical Alien, and it's the honorable mention of the Comedy Film Fest, which is about a well-mannered lady is being accused of being an alien, and no matter how hard she tries, she just can't prove she's not an alien.
Gregory?
Yeah, hi. Nice to meet you. I'm a director of writer-director of QAnon the Musical. It's a documentary, but there is a full-length musical of which we show about 25 minutes of it. It's framed the way Borat's framed. I mean, the strength of it is the documentary footage, but there is a narrative, 3-act kind of hero's journey. That stuff is fictional, which I think kind of. Look, I'm not gonna get into it, but sometimes it makes it difficult because you can't say it's not technically it's not a mockumentary. Everyone's right. On the joke. They don't even have a fucking word. You allowed to?
That's fine.
Okay. They don't have really a word for that. It's right. All these different dramedies. There's a million different, portmanteaus and words. There's no word for, for what. And there's so many of these kinds of movies. You think you'd have a term for it. So,
yeah.
Whatever.
I think
I'm boring myself. I'm done.
Well, thank you everybody for the intros. I think that actually brings up an interesting point and something that in the screenwriting reviewing process that we do and have to coach people through is, what is a comedy? And I think this group has a lot of different examples of what comedy can be. And so I'd like to, if we could, talk about kind of in that same order of people we did, how you came upon your project, what it was that made it a comedy for you, because a line or two can make it simply drama, and just kind of have a little bit of an open conversation about what that process is like for you.
Well, I started writing Yo, Andrea in 2017. Actually, I was doing a play at Yale Repertory Theater, and one of my castmates is a former Golden Gloves boxer, and I used to box myself when I was in my 20s, but I'm not in my 20s anymore. And he had asked me to go spar with him at his gym, and I thought that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. I'm not going to do that. And then every day he would ask me, and finally it occurred to me. I said, "What would it take for a guy in his mid-50s to actually go back into a ring and be willing to get his face punched in?" And I thought, well, I would have to be in love. And be willing to, ruin myself to win over someone that I must have loved for a long time. And the more I thought about it, the more this sort of fable of an old football hero who had a head injury making the biggest play in the biggest game of his life to impress a girl. And then many years later, she comes back into town and he's still pining for her. It was a love story. It's a love story that kept being funny. No matter the more I wrote it, the more it became funny. And it occurred to me that everybody in the script, everyone in the world of the film was sort of broken somehow. And I like that because most people are sort of broken in one way or another, not necessarily shattered, but they all have scars. And so I just started writing real people and I tried to plug them in and they sort of wrote themselves, frankly. It took me about, it took me about 6 or 7 weeks to write a first draft. And then rewrites were a piece of cake. I just kept going through and saying, and reading it every day and saying what gets in the way and what deserves to stay. And so, yeah, I mean, I didn't anticipate writing a comedy. I was trying to write a love story, but I look back on most of the stuff that I've written over the years and it all wants to be funny. So I just let it.
I am curious. I'm going to spread it to the group here. Did anyone else's projects start as not necessarily comedy and kind of shape themselves in that way? No, good. Okay. very in mind for comedy.
No.
Okay.
You're all funny on purpose. I'm
I'm trying to be funny. Maybe the opposite happened.
No.
Yeah, I guess it's yet to be seen if mine is a comedy. It depends on if people laugh at it or not.
Well, it could be stupid.
Well, I mean, like half the people do laugh, but the other half are like, "What the fuck is this?"
Obviously, I have a great respect for the audience already. Yeah. But maybe they're stupid.
I think my film is more of a drama, and I had mixed feelings before I submitted it to the Comedy Film Festival. So that's why I was surprised it did so well. The premise was actually over a cup of coffee with a friend of mine about 2 years ago, and we were talking about childhood memories. And my friend who grew up in Brooklyn said his most famous memory is going to a Three Stooges world premiere in Brooklyn. He was only 12 at the time, and the Three Stooges were there. And they all got to line up before the film, walk up and shake the hands of Mo, Curly, and Larry. And I said to him, was this the highlight of your youth? He goes, might have been the highlight of my life, but this guy's a really interesting guy. He's an FBI serial profiler. And it just happened to be a seed. And I said to my friend Gene, I said, there's a story in here somewhere. I'd like to take it and run with it. And I changed the years, the dates, and everything. But I did like the premise of two very ordinary people, regular people who live on the fringe. They go to the Stooges at the age of 17. The story picks up 45 years later when they reconnect. So a little bit like Michael's, I guess, reconnecting a little bit. And one of the things I liked about the film, when I finished, I realized that except for the main male protagonist, everybody in the film was a woman. The therapist, the neighbor, the girlfriend, old friends. And it just struck me at the end that I didn't realize that was actually happening. And, I'm torn between comedy is sadness, comedy is anger. Anger can be comedy. And so that's how I sort of thought, well, maybe there's some humor weaved through here. But I wasn't really digging for the humor, even though the title of the script is a little bit catchy for a comic. So I just sort of explored it like that. And so being my second film and working in documentary, actually, I love ordinary people because everybody's got a good story and everybody's interesting. So I sort of took these people and sort of took them through for a couple of hours. So that's where we began and where we left off.
So I know some of the short films that are represented here. One is definitely not in, could be not in the real world. And it leaves that question up in the air, which I think is interesting. The idea that the first line and the last line can really set the mood and kind of switch what a thing is. Yeah.
Comedy is like this, this thing.
A lot of hand movements.
Yeah. No, so my brother, I mean, this project I started it over a year ago, but it's really been going on for over 20 years because my brother, he has this YouTube channel and he makes really ridiculous videos. He kind of traffics in like dick and fart humor, you know? And it's something we've kind of been doing as a family for forever and for no like real reason other than to do it. Because some of them go viral. Like one of them has like 8 million views, but most of them don't, you know? So it's just kind of been about like making ourselves laugh and creating for the sake of creating, only in the form of like fart jokes and stuff. So with that, I wanted to do a documentary of his work as if it's like serious work and do like a retrospective. So I did serious interviews. So it's kind of, to me, it's kind of funny because it's supposed to be kind of serious, but we're also showing stuff I probably can't say on this Q&A, but you know, ridiculous shit.
Yeah, a lot of it is, I do believe, still online, so it's probably okay to talk about here.
Yeah.
Now, I am curious, and I before we kind of got going, I had talked with Jeff and Mike a little bit about while there's writing that happens in feature films and short films and pilots ahead of time, that absolutely defines it. Things that are more documentary-esque, or Greg, I'm not sure what we will call yours, but they're very much fluid. And so I was curious if if you had a script you kind of started with and then how that changed. And so Chad and Gregory, if you want to talk about it in that, in any order, that's fine. But how the medium kind of changes that.
I didn't think I'd get as far as I did. So basically what I thought was I will have this producer, this guy called me out of the blue, Dr. Wilson. He told me, he mysterious guy. You can decide whether or not you think that's real, but certain kinds of certain people may send a movie to. They may think that that's real. So a guy named Dr. Wilson called me. He said I had to make a musical about QAnon. I had to only hire QAnon supporters. I could only cast QAnon supporters. It had to be a musical, about QAnon for QAnon, which is, it turns out, the zeitgeist of New York theater. It turns out there aren't as many QAnon musical theater actors in New York City as you would expect. So then it was the audition process. So and then I had somewhat of a script. I basically just had scenes. I said, okay, well, what I'll do is I don't play music. I play a little guitar. Although I'll have a couple ditties in my head, a couple stupid songs. I'll do a little bit of a play, I'll show maybe 15, 20 minutes. I'll have something. And then it'll basically be a way into a documentary about QAnon, but through the prism of making a musical, and have people audition. And of course, they're not going to go well in New York. And then maybe I can go to these conferences, right-wing conferences, and find people who could be sympathetic to this, etc. Right? But then it just got bigger. So it was sort of a script, but as I met certain people, certain relationships formed, and then more, the play became far more. Play in and of itself become a full-length play, which I didn't expect. So all that kind of took life, but I expected it to be like a 30-minute thing total. So it wasn't really a script of only a few scenes, and that was it.
Was there a different version of the film as well, because you're expecting it to be 30 minutes, and the length of time that the project itself took to kind of cook, as far as when it started and when it ended? I mean, well,
it started in January 6th, my favorite holiday. No, started January 2021. 2022. Yeah, it's 2022. And I made 2 movies before. It took fucking forever. 3 years. Every time I did is 3 years. 9 years, 3 movies. I'm gonna be dead soon. And this one, but within 6 months, when nothing was happening, all of a sudden I met this very famous in the world of QAnon woman, like the most famous QAnon woman, and developed a relationship with her. Anyway, within 6 months, I was doing a full-length musical at a QAnon at a hardcore right-wing conference in Texas in like 8 months, so everything moved very quickly. But then certain delays of above it, so it ended up taking 3 years, and we're finally. I'm hoping that it's just honorable mention, which I'm still happy. But I'm hoping part of it's because the sound is not done. We're finally getting that done the next couple of weeks. So it's been a very long process. You run out of money, all those other things. But it seemed like we had most of everything happen much more quickly. In terms of a different version, I put out a pilot when I thought that it would be better as a, as an episodic, because didn't pack as much of a punch as like Borat, wasn't as funny, but I developed real relationships with these people. So at some level it's deeper. And I just thought it would be better in a 3 to 4 part, mini series or whatever. I thought it would be a better form for it, Yeah. But I sent that out. We only go, so many places, but that also wasn't really done in post. It wasn't completed, professionally mixed. So didn't have much luck with that. And then I decided I'd have more opportunity to make it into a film, to cut it into a feature. And I think it actually works a lot better than it would have.
Yeah, I think it worked well as a feature. I think Mike, where you were talking about you've taken your feature screenplay and produced it as shorts as well. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I made 2 shorts out of scenes from the feature script that we wanted to sort of raise the profile of the story, and submitted those to festivals. And one of them we also called Andrea without a lot of foresight, and that won like 6 or 7 festivals. And then we did another one called Tommy and the Guru, because my character Tommy has some really funny and moving scenes with this old sort of burnout meditation instructor. And so we did one of that. And for that, I got a guy named Boyd Gaines, who's a 4-time Tony Award winner, to play the Guru, and I played Tommy, and it was really good. And we shared that around the festival circuit as well, and it got a lot of attention. So that helped us to raise, those 2 helped us to raise about $230,000, which we're still adding to, so that we can shoot a feature.
Has anybody else, or did anyone else approach their project as, maybe a smaller project or maybe even a bigger project before they started in on it, especially in the narrative kind of world?
So it's kind of interesting. Like my film, like it's already like 7 or 7 minutes. It's like very short, and it's just actually comes from a like very simple idea that I was misunderstood by one of my friends. Like no matter how hard I tried to communicate to him, he just couldn't understand me. I feel like, are we talking like the same language, or am I an alien to you? And I just get that kind of feeling and just write it down as soon as possible and make it like a very, very short film. And I think it kind of works interesting.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And yours was, I was talking about the first line, last line. The last line, being a question from the waitress that, wait, are you an alien? It's funny that I thought that person was crazy for thinking it. That type of thing is, I think it's interesting, and it can shape how that plays out.
Could I mention something, by the way? That second short that we did out of the film, one of the reasons, one of the benefits or the results of shooting these short films is that I realized that I really liked the scenes with the Guru, but they kind of didn't belong in the film. So we were actually at a festival in New York City, the Chain Festival, where we won Best Screenplay and Best Comedy. And they were doing a Q&A, and the guy said, so maybe you get to shoot this. And I turned to Boyd and said, well, actually, I've already cut out all the scenes with the Guru. And Boyd's like, what? That was his notification. But really, you find out a lot about your project by diving in and working on it. I mean, we did eight public readings of the full thing over the course of a couple of years. And I learned a lot about some of my favorite characters that, made me have to get rid of them.
Yeah, I think mine was supposed to be much simpler. It was just going to be a quick, fun thing to do. But the more I worked on it, the more I realized there could be more comedy to dig into if I were to shape it up into a more seriously presented thing. It was going to be a lot looser because it's, the documentary is just supposed to be for fun for YouTube, which is probably where it will end up. But just the more I kept diving into the edit, the more I was like, oh, this should be cleaned up better. This should be better presented. And that wasn't my plan going in. And I didn't have a script. I did have an outline, but I think I found most of the comedy in the edit.
Elizabeth, how did you get started on your project?
My first job out of college was in Washington, D.C.,
Mhm.
doing policy advocacy work. It was 2017. So Trump was really just getting started. And I had done improv in college, and shout out to UCB. I feel like I have to. And I wanted to expand my comedy toolbox, I guess I should say. Like, improv's its own weird thing, and I love it. But then I started writing sketch comedy, and then I got into screenwriting, and I was like, oh, like, now I do stand-up. So I like adding skills to kind of articulate these different ideas that I'm feeling all the time. And then working in DC, I'm like in this office where everyone's so earnest and trying to do good work, but you know, overworked, underpaid, stupid things happen. And you're like, if I wasn't so fucking tired, that would be really funny. But I can't really laugh right now. So I'm gonna cry. So it's like, I'm trying to like encapsulate this feeling of like constant overwhelm. Don't get like bogged down by nihilism, but like maybe a little bit, but like laughter has to kind of bring us through the darkness, to be like super cliche. So I wanted to like make a TV series that kind of, memorializes the work of these people who do advocacy work in DC every day at these nonprofits and get, you know, not a lot of recognition, but that's not why they're doing it. And then like sometimes accomplish something tiny, maybe not. I just think it's a fascinating industry also to like see on screen. Like I feel like I'm a real student of the sitcom, and I love workplace comedies. So I just felt like there's so much fodder in this world, and like I feel like you could write 20 seasons and never get bored. So I wanted to make the short as well to like help put the vision on screen, because it's been so many years since I wanted to do that. So it's been it's been good. I've tried to write a pilot like 100 times. So
Are you still trying to write?
yes. So I have I have a good pitch document for the series that like outlines season 1 and kind of gives more background. And I have now this short, which I think it's not like a copy paste, but it is the world. And I think if I can be like, here's my pilot script, here's this short, and here's my pitch doc. This is everything that's ever been in my brain and my heart. Please give me money. That's kind of the plan. But making the short in itself was also, I think, a really important step for me. I'm like a new filmmaker. This was my first film. So yeah, I think just having done this, it was cathartic, and I say making a film is cheaper than therapy, although depending
arguable.
on your budget. So yeah, it's been good, and I'm excited to like keep working, but it's been nice to like have a thing to show people. Yeah.
Were you able to do any sort of crowdfunding or anything like that to kind of get off the ground? Or
Yes. Thank God. I made a GoFundMe, and the budget was still pretty small, but I was so pleased with my people's, support. And like, I think because I'm new, I haven't burnt through all my social capital yet. So people were excited to help. Talk to me in a couple of years and we'll see if people are still as willing. But yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask, right? For all those ends that you can get.
Could I just add something to Elizabeth, if I may? Is it okay, Elizabeth? Right. One of the things I as a documentarian, fundraising is always a pain in the neck. But if you can find out who is in the public sphere who might have an interest in your topics, I've found if you write to them directly, not as a fan, but as a professional, they will write back to you, and oftentimes they might support the project. For example, I did a film in Japan on the first American doctor in Nagasaki. It's called Mission of Mercy. At that time, Jane Alexander, the actress, the late Jack Lemmon, Robin Williams, I think the author who wrote, Scott Peck, the author who wrote The Road Less Traveled, they all had interest in the subject of what I was covering. And I wrote to them, and I got a lot of money from these people. But more important than the money was the letter they wrote endorsing the production. And that raised much more money than they ever gave me. So I was happy. Jack Lemmon gave me $1,000. I was happy with this letter, which raised a lot of money. So think about who might be interested in what you're doing. And that really helps, I think. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sayjal, what about what are you? How did the project start?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. And did you work kind of hand in hand with another person on the script, or the writing, directing, producing? Okay.
Yeah. So my writing partner actually couldn't be here tonight. Unfortunately, she's teaching an acting class. We're both actors and improvisers in Chicago. I moved here in 2004, and I started working at Second City at 2007. And I was like on their touring company, and I did a resident stage there. And so I met a bunch of people, one of it, which was a guy that I dated for 6 years, and then it ended really horribly. And my best friend and I, who's my writing partner, decided to write a series about it. And so it was like very loosely based on my life and this breakup and this relationship. And I cast all my friends, because all my friends are actors and improvisers. And I was the lead in it. And my best friend who wrote it with me, she directed most of the episodes because she's also a director. So we just got a bunch of our friends together who already did these things and paid them a little bit of money. We did a Kickstarter. So we ended up raising about 20 grand from a Kickstarter, which was great. We can't ever do a Kickstarter again because everyone we know gave us money already.
No, how that goes.
And that was in 2013. And we cast all our friends. We made 6 episodes. And we wrote and the whole plan was always to make 6, because we're both really big fans of British television, and they only have like 6 episodes a season. So we were like, let's write 6 episodes. And it was always meant to be funny, but like also kind of dark in a way. And show like how shitty it can be to be an actor and improviser in Chicago, and not know what you're doing and not make any money. And so, yeah, that's kind of how the project started, with a breakup, essentially. So my ex-boyfriend is actually responsible for the entire web series, but he has no idea.
Yours was the one that came to mind with the last line, where the last line during the credits is a heartbreaking moment. It's very much, you have fun, and there are definitely heartbreak moments, and that the last thing is just, it tears your heart out. I find it interesting. I find it interesting that you can leave an audience on that note, and there's still, smiles and wanting to see more. It's interesting.
Yeah, and it was a blast to shoot. Because it was all our friends, and they're all improvisers, and so we wrote scripts. But then at the same time, we were like, you can say whatever you want in this take, or do whatever you want in this take. And so that was really fun to be able to let other people improvise in the takes. And a lot of times we got stuff that was better than what we wrote. And so we were just like, yeah, this is awesome. I love working like this. So it was fun.
And Jerry, we kind of already talked about it a little bit. Are there plans to kind of, expand the idea at all, or are you working on other projects?
So for this film, I think the idea is just originally, like I said, just a misunderstanding happened between me and my friend, and I sooner realized it's just not between me and my friend, it's between like human and the whole world with other humans. So I kind of expand this as a tale in this story, but right now I feel like the commentary I'm making is already all in that story, and I think this like simple idea is just a good fit for a simple, short, like 5 to 7 minutes film. And as you've may seen the film, it's like all in one location. It's just about a conversation, and it's quick with beats. And I think my idea of the feeling of being misunderstood, and we human cannot understand each other, and we try our best to, I think it's properly portrayed in a very funny way.
And so I am interested in the improvisation that you had spoken about. that happens on set, but also in the creative process for writing and whatnot. Those of you who wrote by yourselves, do you still do that kind of internally, or do you do kind of acting out scenes and trying to find what's funny in the scene or where the scene should go, or how do you kind of approach? And feel free to anyone to answer.
I would say what helps me is I have a lot of funny friends who are actors, and no matter what you write for them, they somehow manage to make it funny. And on the last reading, this one girl who did the one of the shorts with me, we had known each other for like 20 years, but we never worked together on anything. We met in an acting class, but we never performed together, and we never even did a scene in class. But when I wrote this, I knew I wanted her to do it. So I flew her in from Los Angeles to New York, and she just got it. I didn't have to tell her anything about what we were doing. So it made me feel good that what I wrote was correct, because she would have improv something better if she could have. And we ended up doing the script word for word. So
excellent.
But as an actor, I'm an actor, I'm a theater guy. I would be open to anybody saying, let me try this, or just coming out with something totally different when we're doing it. Because if it works, it works. That's what I'm ultimately looking for as a guy who I spent my life in front of audiences, and the audience will tell you if it works.
Gregory, I'm kind of curious on that. When you finally were able to put on the performance of the musical, how many runs did y'all do? I know it was multiple.
No,
multiple.
No, that was the first time they had ever done it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was part of the problem, because it was last minute at this you never know what people what they believe. It's just,
right.
The Reawaken America conference in Dallas had pretty right wing QAnon, at least adjacent. It's QAnon conference, and it was in a hotel, and they fucked up the multi-track. Messed up the multi-track, was giving me a terrible time. It wasn't even the right. We had never performed it before, so it was the first performance, and I can't match anything. It was very specific. It's in like a hotel ballroom or whatever. It's not even a real theater. Anyway, that just became problematic because we did it once in Dallas, and then I brought them to New York, and we did like a week in Bushwick. And it was, talk about comedy is very interesting because the play is very funny as itself. It's clearly satirical, and these people didn't think that it wasn't satirical. They knew that I was being playful, but as long as people think you're on your side, they're a lot more willing to laugh at themselves. So I was surprised that the things I thought were funny that I wrote, and the things I purposely wrote that were kind of to their liking, it was interesting to see what people like. And the actor, the main actor in the play, he's very good singer and stuff, but kind of hammy. Wade, he would do some improv and stuff. He'd add some things like it's funny. Just say the thing. And he would do very kind of hammy improv, but they loved it, the people. So it's like, so that was the only real improv. That and I lied to these people for 3 years. So I don't know if it's improv, it's lying. I lied. I had to keep coming up with some rationale for something, but I don't know.
It's an interesting question, right? Is acting lying as well?
Well, this was mostly lying.
Yeah. I would love to have a side conversation.
Lying maybe acting. Acting isn't necessarily lying, but lying is a form of acting. That's what they do. Maybe that's the way.
If I could follow up there, after
Absolutely,
Michael, just for a second. I worked solo on this project, and except for getting the seed for the story from my friend that I referenced, but I wasn't seeking comedy. The story gets darker and darker. It doesn't get funnier and lighter, and it just sort of took me to that place where I thought these two folks who've lived on the fringe, kind of where they're going to land. And so for me, the script getting more serious is how I just took the film. Even though there's a lot of levity in the first half of the film, it turns real dark. So I just went down the rabbit hole with them and came out of it alive, I guess. So
Now, Chad, I am curious. Would you say that your brothers were adversarial into the making of your documentary, or
No, I think they were, at first they were very confused about what I was doing. Because I was just like, hey, I want to make a retrospective of your work. And they're like, okay. And we're always just shooting stuff. So they were game. They just, before we got really rolling into it, they were like not sure what I was doing with all this until I showed them a rough cut like half a year later. And they're like, oh, okay, I get what you're doing now. But no,
okay.
I mean, maybe they're adversarial just because we mess with each other all the time,
right?
You know, joking around. But yeah, it was fun to do. I mean, you know, I'm not an actor and they're not really actors, but like we've all done comedy and work. I work in comedy, like I work with comedy podcasters and stuff. So it was fun. It was, you know, it was mostly improvising. Whether it was good improv or not, I'm not sure, but it was fun. And yeah, they were on board.
What does everyone's kind of next steps for their projects look like? You know, is this project finished now? Are you touring with it to other festivals? You know, will you do a release online or?
I've been talking with the producer up here, and we've sort of had a verbal agreement to shoot this summer, the feature, and he's kind of funded. But I'm a little worried about, you know, the state of things right now in the world, and you know, all of a sudden, and people who invest in films usually invest in other things, and with the roller coaster that we're seeing in the stock market and everything, I'm trying not to be pessimistic that it's going to happen, but it's supposed to happen this summer, and he's still returning my calls. So, so after 7.5 years, it would be really nice if we almost had a deal right before the pandemic. We had like a handshake deal with a producer and an Oscar-winning director, and then it all fell apart. Now, I mean, that seems a little grandiose for a little project like mine, but when people want something, I'm not going to tell them they can't have it because because I'm a first-time writer. It's like, if it works, if they want it, it's all theirs. But so I think I'm cautiously optimistic that we're actually going to shoot this feature this summer, and I will be the happiest guy alive.
I look forward to it. Hopefully that works out. Yeah.
Thanks.
If not, I think we have some people here who can give you some Kickstarter and GoFundMe tips as well.
All right.
We can burn through some social capital as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff?
Yeah, it's the project is in some other festivals, and the other thing I've been doing is sending it to some independent filmmakers because it's a quirky story. I sent a copy to Detour Productions, to Richard Linkletter, a couple of guys from film school in Boston, where I'm from originally. They just had a film over at the Cannes Film Festival, and they have a new film out about old guys playing softball. And this film kind of fits that. So I've been trying to get it out there to people who may want to take a nibble at it because it's a little offbeat. So between the festivals and circulating it to some production houses right now.
Chad?
Yeah, well, I mean, so far we've only had one screening. It was in Omaha, which is where we shot it and where we're from. And there was about 100 people there, and everyone seemed to laugh at the right spots and stuff. So that kind of encouraged me to start submitting it to some fests and things like that. But I'll say I do have very low expectations for it. Like, I don't think it's going to get selected a lot, which is fine. You know, like, it's kind of funny to me that it could potentially screen for an audience that has to sit there and watch it. But it's also funny to me that someone has to screen it. They have to sit on their laptop and watch what we made. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm just waiting out the next few months, see what we get or don't get. But ultimately, it's going on YouTube because that's where all their videos live anyway. And I think it's a better audience for it. But we'll see. You know, you never know. Like, I have friends who make serious documentaries, and they were really into it because it does have some heart, even though because it's about a family, even though it's about, you know, there's a lot of fake semen and other things like that in it. But yeah, we'll see.
Gregory, you said you were working on additional post, correct?
Yeah, we're finishing the sound. I mean, I ran out of money, and then had to wait.
I think we all know how that goes.
But I'm not going to pretend to be out. I mean, it's not they don't. I don't know. This is the second, third movie, 3 years of each one that I'm hoping that I just keep making these things that the macro environment has to be right for, and then I'm fucking nobody. So it's not like I just need to get somebody. I need to get some kind of Bill Maher, some kind of political comedian or somebody that attached to this in some way. Someone like that I know would like it when they saw it. And that's what I'm worried about. But other than that, I've been out to a few festivals, but the sound isn't done. So I'm just hoping but that's the reason that we made some editorial changes. But I think that I'm worried that it's going to be misconstrued again. I mean, it's just like, well, this fucking country's so stupid. I mean, you do something. How could it be a satire? And you're just like, I mean, come on. So, I mean, of course it's satirical. I just don't know how obvious you have to be. This country doesn't do satire very well anymore,
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm worried about. I mean, I did a movie called Boland, which wasn't a perfect movie, but still pretty funny and more interesting than the other bullshit that's out there. And that was, I don't know why I cursed you too much. I'm sorry. But that was, Trump won, and it was sort of, what if everything premise was, which is of course ironic now, the premise was, making fun of what if everything the right wing said about Obama was true, came true. He runs for a third term because president for life. We don't have to go into how ironic that is now in light of recent statements. But the point was, it was obviously satirical, but everyone was so like anything, shocked by Trump that any mention of Trump was just rendered festivals impossible, right? So that was gone. I mean, relatively prescient when you look back at some level, but and now, now it might have been, I don't know whether or not it was I'm not going to get to whether it's a good thing for the world, but I don't know whether it's a good thing, the current president, administration is good or bad for me. I'm hoping that it won't be, and that's why I made it more specific instead of, about, Republicans or Democrats, it's about QAnon. So unless you believe I'm QAnon or I'm, a supporter, you should be able to see it satirical. So I'm hoping that people expected him to win. I just hope I'm just tying it to the political wins, so macro things you can't control is, perilous because so I'm hoping that that won't be a problem,
Yeah.
But I just need more people. I was going to add like fake producers just to put them on there. Also, it just says me. It's one thing if it's successful and you have, you're editor, you're this and that. I mean, I can't work the machine. I have to do everything. And if it's successful, oh my God, look, he did everything. But if it's not, you're like, oh, it's got, it looks unprofessional.
Mhm.
Some shitty auteur, like this guy, the only guy that fucking credits. So it has to. I'm just hoping this, anyway. Third time's a charm. I'm hoping so.
Fingers crossed for you. I enjoyed it. Yeah,
Great
it is.
speech.
It is. It is a rough environment
What a
to have to
motivational
film.
speech.
I agree.
Please just send me that tape. I can play it.
I will say that I watched it in a coffee shop, and I was nervous about some people looking over my shoulder and,
Oh,
and
sure.
possibly thinking I was
I got
agreeing
this
with it.
for one shot, and then too many mushrooms. I never had a tattoo before. I got this thing. Then I got it. And I thought you could take it off easily. Tattoos. I didn't.
It takes a couple of rounds. I hear.
It hurts to take off. It hurt to put it
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
43 years I waited for a tattoo. It hurt like hell. People said it hurts like hell, and you can't take it off. Now I got this lunatic thing, Anyway.
Well,
So, yeah.
I hope you can eventually get to take it off with these, if that's what you want.
Well, I decided I'm going to keep this on, so I have to look at this. And if I'm going to fail the rest of my life and have to see this stupid thing, then fine. And that's what I'm going to have to suffer to motivate myself not to sign some really shitty little distribution deal. One of these aggregating idiots that do nothing.
Yeah.
So that's for sure. It's going somewhere. I don't care if it's on YouTube, free. People are going to see it.
I look forward to being out there.
I can't believe you committed to that bit that hard. I mean, that's filmmaking.
I hope you can watch the film. I really do.
It's
I hope you
very
can watch
like
the
Johnny
film.
Knoxville of you. Giving Steve-O.
It's going to get lower. It's going to get lower and lower. Like, actually.
Yes. So I am bringing the film to a couple other festivals. have a bunch of rejections, have a bunch more I'm waiting for. That's how it works. So we'll see. And I'm excited. It feels good to like, put a lot of your identity into a thing and then have
absolutely.
other people be like, yes, I validate.
Yeah. But the validation feels great, right?
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's not just me. Okay. So that's great. And I think I should revisit the pilot script for the series and maybe submit that to things too separately. Yeah, I really want to keep telling the story. So I think the question for myself is like, what's the best way to do that? And maybe it's shoot more stuff and put that on YouTube. Maybe it's try to find money to shoot the pilot. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna keep trying to see what avenues are, possible to expand into, I guess. Yeah.
I hope to read your pilot next year. I hope you'll be sending them.
Great.
So you,
Sorry, it's been a long time since you asked.
No,
there's a lot of people. We have a lot of people. No, so kind of next. No, you're fine. Everything's fine.
Greg, you're doing great. So we shot it. We finished it in 2013. So we did a bunch of screenings then. We submitted to a bunch of festivals and didn't really get anything. So we actually wrote a different series after that.
Oh, good. Well, you got another one though.
We have another one.
Yeah, that's
it's not been shot.
Okay,
and it's 10 episodes, but they're each like 20 minutes. So it's like a short episode type of thing. And it's called Serial Dater. And it's about a woman dating in Chicago. And then she just keeps killing the men that she goes on these dates with for like trivial reasons. And then like just getting rid of their bodies with her best friend. And so it's kind of like a kooky, like chick flick, but there's murder and stuff. And it's like a kind of a horror comedy. Like one guy she kills because he wears flip-flops in the winter. And she's like, I can't date somebody that wears flip-flops in the winter. And no one should have to date him. So she murders him. So it's that. And so each episode is a different murder, or a different guy that she's dating in a different murder. And so, and then there's a pair of detectives who are like trying to catch her essentially and figure out who this person is. And one of them is like this hard-boiled lady detective that I'm going to be playing. And then the other one is a complete mess. And so they're partners. So we're hoping to film it in the fall with the same people who we filmed Funny with, the same crew that we filmed Funny with, because they were a fantastic crew and they have a video company in Chicago and they're really great. They totally understand like our comedic sensibility, which is great. So we're hoping to shoot it in the fall and hopefully submit it to some stuff. Yeah.
Well, I know a festival you can submit to. So
do you? The problem is like getting like the gore elements, because this video company does a lot of horror stuff. So we're hoping that they can help us with the gore stuff, but it's like, it's a little more complicated than Funny just because it's got more special effect type stuff in it. So we'll see, but we're hoping we can pull it off. And it's a comedy already. So if it doesn't completely get pulled off, that's okay.
Can I ask you a question, Sayjal?
Yeah, absolutely.
You were talking about 6 episodes. Is that like some sort of magic number? Because I have a story that I want to write, and I think it's well suited for a limited series. But I mean, do you just write as many episodes as your story will hold, or do you just kind of plug it into like a timeline of? How do you work that?
We're not that organized.
No, I'm not either. I just
no. The reason we did 6 is because my writing partner and I are just really big fans of British television, and a lot of British television only does 6 episodes. Right. And so we were like, "Oh, that sounds cool. Let's do." And it was our first one, and so we knew we were like, we don't have 10 episodes in us. We don't have 25. There's no way. Like we wanted to start with something manageable. And so that's why we did 6. That's the only reason we picked 6. And then this one, like I said, has 10, but they're shorter. So they're only like 20 minutes each. Or no, sorry, they're not even 20 minutes each. Sorry, Funny was 20 minutes each. This one is like 7 to 10 minutes each episode. Oh, okay. So they're very short. That's why there's 10 of them.
Cool. No, great.
So, yeah, mine is like an indie film, as you all see, like 7 minutes, very short. I think it's completely finished, and it's still going on festival tours. Like I have a good news, which it's going to Roxbury International Film Festival, which is a influential festival around like New England area. Because like right now I'm a graduate student in Emerson College, so I feel like quite delighted that I can share this film to the whole city I'm living in, and people
Yeah.
around can finally go to theater and go see my film in the big screen. And like right now I'm working on a feature screenplay, which I finished it, and I think I'm trying to sell it out or submit it to some festivals. And also I'm preparing for my next short, which is gonna be shooting in May. So like a lot of stuff's going on. But for Not a Typical Alien, my last film, this one is finished. And like just like what the Count of Monte Cristo in that book, it says to wait and to hope.
I'm glad you have irons in the fire, as it were. Some other things too. It's always good to hear people continue to to be artistic and continuing on. I know that can be tough sometimes. Well, everyone, thank you so much for your time. And I enjoyed everything, and good luck with all your projects.